Hello everyone, Ulsisoft.com welcomes to the continuation of tutorial series on Python 3. This is Python 3 for absolute beginners and novices. This video tutorial will be respect to object-oriented programming with respect to Python 3 programming language. But remember, Python 3 is actually a scripting language which does not have any data type declaration nor return data type using function nor any data type declaration inside the class. So this tutorial will be beginning with object-oriented programming using Python and Python 3 for absolute beginners and novices. So I'll just open the Eclipse IDE. So we just created a tutorial 4 and a tut 4 Python file. So this is just by selecting the main option when you're creating the file. So this tutorial is all about object-oriented programming. The object-oriented programming begins with the keyword called class in Python, and just give a class name. I'll just give class, and you do the parenthesis and with a semicolon, then press enter. Then declare definition, the function declaration with the init function. This is the constructor with the keyword called self, and pass. So this is the two lines. That is a the standard way of declaring a class in a Python 3 object-oriented way. So use the keyword called class, give a class name, the left side and right side parenthesis with the colon, and then have a constructor with the keyword called def. Def always stands for function. Functional programming in Python is the keyword called def. And this underscore, there are two underscores, prefix and suffix with the word called init, init, and inside the parenthesis there's a keyword called self, colon, and pass. Pass means is it just a dummy, it doesn't do anything. So if you just the first time I'm running, so left click, select the file, right click, come to run as, and go for Python run. So it prints nothing, and it does not have any syntax error nor any error that is caught by the Python interpreter. So this is this very standard way of declaring. But remember, def init is with the keyword called self as the parameter that is passing to the constructor, meaning the OOP class is passed on to the constructor. So this is the standard way of defining an object-oriented construct using Python 3 programming language. But remember, Python is actually a scripting language, so there is no data type declaration. So let's declare. Let's talk about the variable declaration in object-oriented. So if you declare any variable called with the keyword called self, it means this variable called var is visible in the entire namespace of the class called OOP class. If you don't declare with the keyword called self and dot, it means that var1 is only visible inside the function called init, which is actually the constructor for the OOP class. So anything in declared with the keyword called init is actually like the constructor, like in C++, Java, C#, where you have an explicit constructor with the public keyword. So here in Python, it is declared as a function with the keyword called init. This is a keyword for Python, so don't reuse any function with this keyword called init or underscore underscore. The underscore two underscores actually means there are the keywords dedicated for Python programming language constructs only. For example, here name is there, here main is there. It's all a prefix and suffix with two underscores. So if you declare any variable with self dot, it means that variable is var. The variable with the word called var is under the namespace of the entire class. If you don't declare with self, it's only visible inside the function which has been declared, and not to the entire scope of the class. So let's go with some kind of a standard printing just to begin understanding of object-oriented construct using Python 3 programming language. So the variable has to be used with var. So as you can see, if you type self and dot, you can actually see the IntelliSense is actually showing the variable called var. So var with the keyword called self, meaning the entire the namespace of the var is inside the entire namespace of the class which has been declared. That's the advantage of declaring with any variable with the keyword called self. The self is not part of the variable. The variable is just three letters var var. But if we declare with self, it's in the entire namespace of the class. So I'll declare another function just to show the namespace. Print func. So I have to declare the function. Any function declared inside a class will have the first variable called with the keyword called self as the first argument. So the word called self has to be present. If you declare function outside the class, there is no keyword called self there. It's just open and close parenthesis with the colon, and you can have a print function. So if you declare the function outside the class, you don't need the keyword called self. If you declare a function inside the class, the first argument to the function that is passed on to the function should be the self. This is to tell the print function is under the namespace of the class that is declared inside the class. So remember that Python is based on spaces. It's not like C++, Java, C# where you put a curly brace showing which is the namespace that is valid, but in Python it's all done by spaces. So as you can see, the editor is showing the vertical line. So this one is actually declared inside the class because it's a self. It is visible inside the entire namespace of the class. I've just delete the outside print function here. So we have declared two functions, init function. Remember, this is the constructor, underscore underscore two underscores, prefix and suffix of init is a constructor. I've declared the variable with the keyword called self, so it is visible inside the namespace of whoop class. And I have a print function which has the printing the value of self var, which is now a string data type, because after the assignment equal sign we have a string that is in double quote, and printing with the variable called file. So how to have an instance of the class? So you have class instance. Give a meaningful name for variable class name or a function name. So class instance you call whoop. So as you can see, the IntelliSense is actually showing what's in the namespace. We are inserted in the whoop class. So with closing and closing brace, because we haven't passed on any default variables to the whoop class. I'll come to the next step of that. Here is dummy because we have nothing inside the constructor, just a keyword called self, just to tell that all these functions actually belongs to the namespace of whoop class. So this is the instance has been made. So just call class. As you can see, the IntelliSense class inst dot. So as you can see, we have made an instance called class inst, which is the type of the class, or the object class is known as the whoop class, and we have two things that is available in the namespace. One is the print function and one is the var. You can directly access the var because it has the keyword called self. If we don't declare with the keyword called self, it is not visible outside the class and it is in the namespace of the function. So we choose to print using the class. So whoop class is the class with the keyword called class, and it is the constructor with the keyword called def. Def stands for function, and we have a function which actually prints the value of the var. And we have created an instance of the whoop class, and we are calling the print function because it has the keyword called self. So any function declared inside the class should be having the first argument as the self, meaning it refers to the namespace of the class. So let's run it. Let's see any errors, or it prints without any errors. So as you can see, the var is Python 3 is working because that is the value of the variable we assigned as a string. So for example, if we declare var2 equals 100, this var2 is not visible inside the namespace of init, because the var2 has been declared inside the namespace of the print function, though print function is inside the namespace of the class called oop class, because it does not have the keyword called self and dot. So I'm just referring to the keyword called self to declare the namespace. So var2 is only visible in print function. So if you can see, even IntelliSense will not show dot. So you can actually see the print function and var, and in it there is no var2, because var2 does not have the self keyword. So what if we declared with self var? It should be visible outside in the class instance. So as you can see, the var2 is now visible in the namespace of the class. So if we want to have a variable that should be visible in the entire namespace of the class declared with self, if you want just a local variable, now the var2 is just a local variable of print function. So just be careful about for something like what we call in object oriented constructs like C++, Java, C#, like public and private. So if you want to make the variable private, don't use the word keyword called self. If you want to make the variable public, use the keyword called var, keyword called self. So now var variable is public, var2 is private. But if you declare var where any variable inside init function, so let's check with so now var3 is also not visible. var3 does not have a keyword called self. So var3 and var2 is private. var2 is only visible inside print function. var3 is only visible inside init function. So this is how do you control only the variables like public and private. If you want public, go with self. If you want private, go without the self keyword. But once you declare with the keyword called self, not only is public, it is visible in the entire namespace of the class. And the namespace of var2 is inside print function only. var3 is inside the namespace of init function, which is the constructor. So remember that def init is actually the constructor for the class, and it's an optional definition, meaning the function, the constructor, but it is a good programming practice to have a constructor. If you don't want anything in the constructor, put pass. It's just a dummy, so you don't have to worry about, but just have a constructor, because it's very much useful for object oriented constructs. For example, declaring variable and initializing the variable, calling an initialization function of the class, which should be running as soon as the class instance starts running. So this is the standard way of declaring an object oriented class construct in Python 3. And the oop class is just a class, and this has the we have made a class instance and called the function which is inside the class. So all functions will have the first argument with the keyword called self, and the self makes the variable namespace to be visible in the entire class. So if you want to have a variable private, don't use the word called self. If you want the variable to be public, use a keyword called self. So this is the way you control the variable visibility, and just be careful about the namespace of the variable. So remember, Python is based on spaces. So control your spaces, whether you want 2, 3 or 4. If you press tab on the keyboard, we are just using the 2 tab, and also the PyDev actually shows where the namespaces are by having a vertical dotted line. So this is the standard way of doing object oriented programming in Python 3. This is just a beginning. We'll have a few more episodes on videos on this, how to go about effectively utilizing the object oriented constructs in Python 3. So I will end this video. Thanks for watching this video until the very end. And this video, this tutorial series is brought to you by ulsisoft.com. This is for Python 3 absolute beginners and starters. Please please make sure you also watch the additional tutorials that are coming from ulsisoft.com. Thanks a lot. Bye.